The year was 1997. Michael Jackson was in the middle of the History World Tour, a concert series that spanned continents, broke records, and demanded nothing less than perfection every single night. For Michael, this tour was not just another round of shows, it was a statement. The media had been merciless in their attacks, critics questioned his every move, and the weight of being the most famous man on the planet had never been heavier. But when he walked on stage, none of that could show. The world expected magic. And Michael always delivered. Yet, on this night, in a stadium filled with nearly 70,000 fans, the King of Pop was about to face one of the most terrifying battles of his career. Not with an audience, not with the press, but with his own body. From the early morning hours, the city buzzed with anticipation. Streets near the stadium were blocked by waves of fans who had camped out for days, some clutching hand-painted signs, others wearing homemade sequin gloves and fedoras. Local radio stations played Michael's music non-stop, while television crews interviewed excited fans who shouted into microphones, "I can't believe I'm going to see him tonight." Helicopters hovered above the venue to capture aerial shots of the massive crowd. Vendors sold bootleg t-shirts and glow sticks outside the gates. Inside the stadium, technicians worked feverishly to test sound systems, rig lights, and prepare the colossal stage that had been transported across continents. By sunset, the energy was palpable. Tens of thousands of fans poured into their seats, chanting Michael's name, waving banners that read, "We love you, Michael." The roar of the crowd echoed like thunder even before the show began. Backstage, however, the atmosphere was very different. Michael sat quietly in front of his dressing room mirror. His makeup was applied perfectly, his outfit laid out, the black sequin jacket, the white shirt, the iconic glove. But his reflection betrayed the truth. His face was pale, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. For weeks, Michael had been pushing himself to the brink. Endless travel across time zones, back-to-back performances, rehearsals that stretched into the early morning. His body was faltering. Dehydration, fatigue, and stress weighed on him like invisible chains. His personal doctor hovered nearby, urging him to slow down. Assistants offered him water, vitamins, oxygen. But Michael waved them away. He whispered softly, almost as if to himself, "They came here for me. I can't let them down." For Michael, the show was not just a performance, it was a promise. A promise to fans who had saved money, traveled miles, and waited their entire lives to see him. No matter the pain, the fatigue, the fear, he would keep that promise. 10 minutes before showtime, the dressing room door opened. A stage manager leaned in, headset crackling. 5 minutes. Michael. The crowd is ready. Michael rose slowly, adjusting the fedora on his head. His hands trembled slightly, but he clenched them into fists, willing his body to obey. As he walked down the narrow corridor toward the stage, the sound of the crowd grew louder, a deafening wave of adoration and expectation. His dancers lined up beside him, bouncing with nervous energy, offering encouraging smiles. The hydraulic platform waited. This was his grand entrance, the moment the world held its breath. Michael stepped onto the platform. The crew gave him a final nod. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. With a thunderous blast of pyrotechnics, Michael shot into the air and landed on stage in perfect stillness. The crowd erupted into hysteria. For nearly 2 full minutes, he didn't move. His head was bowed, his silhouette frozen against the blazing lights. Fans screamed, cried, fainted. Then, a single movement. He lifted his head. The band struck the opening notes. The stadium shook. The show had begun. Michael launched into scream, his voice sharp, powerful, resonant. His dancers moved in unison behind him, the stage bathed in pulsating lights. From there, he tore into They Don't Care About Us and In the Closet, each song delivered with precision and fire. To the audience, it was perfection. But to those watching closely backstage, something was wrong. Michael's movements, though sharp, carried an undertone of strain. His breathing between lyrics was heavier than usual. Sweat poured down his face earlier than expected. Still, he pushed forward, commanding the stage like a general in battle. By the time he reached "Wanna Be Starting Something," Michael was drenched in sweat, his shirt clinging to his chest. His spins were flawless, his kicks explosive, but backstage eyes saw the tremors in his hands, the slight falter in his steps. To the fans, however, the energy was intoxicating. They screamed louder with every move, feeding him their devotion. Michael absorbed it, using their energy to push back the fatigue threatening to consume him. Still, the cracks were there. His doctor whispered urgently to the crew. "He's running on empty. This can't last." But the audience knew nothing. To them, Michael was invincible, a figure of pure magic who defied the limits of human endurance. Midway through the concert, the familiar bass line of Billie Jean rumbled through the stadium. The crowd exploded into screams. Fans leapt to their feet, chanting every word before Michael even sang them. He stepped into the spotlight, fedora tilted low, sequined glove shimmering. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. With a snap of his fingers, he launched into the song, delivering every lyric with precision. When the time came for the moonwalk, the stadium reached a fever pitch. Tens of thousands of voices screamed in unison as Michael glided effortlessly across the stage, his feet moving as if gravity had abandoned him. The crowd lost its collective mind. Some fans sobbed, others fainted. It was the moment they had dreamed of their entire lives. But backstage, panic was building. The dancers noticed his uneven breathing. The doctor clenched his jaw, muttering, "He's not going to make it through the night like this." As Billie Jean ended, Michael exited the stage briefly for a costume change. The crowd screamed, thinking it was just part of the show. But behind the curtain, Michael collapsed into a chair, gasping for breath. Assistants rushed to cool him with fans and water. The doctor pressed a hand to his wrist, feeling the rapid, irregular pulse. Michael waved them off, his eyes blazing with determination. "They are waiting. I have to go back." The doctor shook his head furiously. "If you push this any further, you could collapse out there. You need to stop now." But Michael was already rising to his feet. The next number, "Beat It," began to thunder from the speakers. Michael pushed past his assistants, straightened his jacket, and marched back toward the stage. His legs trembled, but his resolve was unshakable. As the lights hit him once more, the crowd roared, oblivious to the storm raging inside his body. And Michael, refusing to show weakness, launched into the performance with every ounce of strength he had left. The opening riffs of "Beat It" ripped through the stadium like a lightning bolt. Fans leapt to their feet, fists pumping in the air, chanting every lyric before Michael even sang a word. Michael strode back onto the stage, guitarists flanking him, dancers behind him, lights exploding in a frenzy of reds and whites. To the audience, he looked unstoppable, a warrior of rhythm, commanding every inch of the colossal stage. But his body was failing him. As he launched into the chorus, "Just beat it, beat it." Michael's voice carried the same fire it always did, but his movements betrayed him. His spins were a fraction slower, his jumps slightly shorter. Sweat poured off him, soaking his shirt, glistening under the searing lights. From the first row, some fans noticed. One later recalled, "I thought he looked tired, but then he smiled, and we all screamed louder. We thought maybe he was just teasing us." Michael's smile was real, but it was also a mask, concealing the battle raging inside. Backstage, the doctor clenched his fists. His eyes darted to the stage manager. "He won't last much longer. I need to be ready." Midway through the performance, during a high-energy sequence with his dancers, Michael staggered. For a split second, the king of pop faltered. His knees buckled, and his hand reached for balance. The crowd thought it was part of the choreography. They screamed even louder. But the dancers knew. They saw the flicker of pain in his eyes, the sudden gasp for breath. Michael finished the number, bowing slightly, then turned and walked briskly, too briskly, toward the wings. The moment he stepped behind the curtain, his legs gave out. He collapsed onto the floor, his body trembling violently. Assistants screamed his name. The doctor dropped to his knees, pressing 2 fingers to Michael's neck. His pulse was erratic, his breathing shallow, his chest rising and falling as though each breath was a battle. "Get water! Get oxygen!" the doctor barked. Crew members scrambled. One assistant fumbled with an oxygen tank, another dabbed Michael's forehead with a wet cloth. Michael's eyes fluttered open. He whispered, barely audible, "Don't stop the show." The doctor leaned closer. "Michael, listen to me. You can't go back out there. If you do, your body might shut down completely." But Michael shook his head weakly. "They came here for me. I have to finish." The crew argued frantically. Some insisted they cancel the show immediately. Others feared the backlash of disappointing 70,000 fans who had paid, waited, and dreamed of this night. The dancers stood in stunned silence, tears welling in their eyes. One whispered, "He gave us everything out there, and now he's breaking." The stage manager turned to the doctor. "Can he go on?" The doctor's voice was firm. "No, absolutely not. He needs rest, fluids, and medical attention. If he goes back out there, he's risking his life." But Michael was already pushing himself up on shaky elbows. His determination radiated even through his weakness. He clutched at the doctor's sleeve. "Please, just give me a few minutes. I'll be okay." The doctor stared at him in disbelief. "Michael, your body is telling you to stop. You're running on empty." Michael's reply was barely a whisper. "They didn't come to see me stop. They came to see me finish." Those words silenced the room. For a moment, all the chaos fell away, replaced by the sheer force of his will. From the stage, the roar of the audience seeped backstage like a tidal wave. 70,000 voices chanted his name in unison. "Michael! Michael! Michael!" The sound was deafening, relentless, impossible to ignore. Michael closed his eyes, listening. That sound, the voices of his fans, was his lifeline, his reason, his fuel. He whispered again, "I have to finish." The doctor leaned close, his face etched with frustration. "Michael, if you go back out there, I cannot guarantee you'll make it through the night. Do you understand me?" Michael opened his eyes, weak but unyielding. "Then I'll give them everything I have left. That's all I can do." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others, knowing Michael better than anyone, realized there was no stopping him. With the help of 2 assistants, Michael staggered to his feet. His body trembled, his shirt clung to him with sweat, his breathing was ragged. Yet his posture straightened, his chin lifted, his eyes burned with determination. The doctor muttered under his breath, defeated, "He's going to do it, no matter what we say." The stage manager gave a reluctant nod. "All right. Cue the next number." Michael adjusted his jacket, pulled the fedora lower over his eyes, and steadied himself. He walked toward the curtain. Each step felt like walking through fire, but he did not falter. The crew watched in stunned silence as he reached the wings. With a single nod to the stage manager, Michael signaled, "Open it." The curtain began to rise. The spotlight blazed. The audience roared with a force that shook the ground. And Michael Jackson, against all odds, stepped back into the fire. The roar of the crowd was like a living force, shaking the very air backstage. Tens of thousands of voices thundered his name. "Michael! Michael! Michael!" For the audience, it was impatience, the desperate longing for their idol to return. But for Michael, it was something far deeper. It was the sound of their love, their devotion, their belief in him. And that belief was stronger than the pain ravaging his body. As the curtain rose, a blinding spotlight pierced the darkness, illuminating Michael's silhouette. His fedora tilted low, his sequined glove catching the light, he stepped forward with slow, deliberate movements. The stadium erupted into hysteria. Fans screamed, fainted, clutched one another in disbelief. For them, there had been no collapse backstage. They saw only the king, returning to finish what he had begun. Michael raised his arm, pointing skyward, and the opening chords of Black or White thundered through the speakers. From the very first note, it was clear, this was no ordinary performance. Michael's body was trembling, but every move he made was charged with raw defiance. He sang with fire. It don't matter if you're black or white. His voice cracked at moments, but instead of weakness, it gave the song an edge of vulnerability that electrified the audience. Every lyric felt like a declaration, not just against racism, but against the limits of his own body. Halfway through the song, Michael dropped to one knee. A gasp rippled through the stadium. But then, with sheer force of will, he rose again, spinning, stomping, defying the weakness inside him. The crowd lost their minds. They screamed so loud it drowned out the music. It was as if the entire stadium was carrying him, giving him the strength to continue. As the song ended, Michael stood in the spotlight, chest heaving, drenched in sweat. He bowed slightly, his hand trembling as he lifted the microphone again. He whispered, almost to himself but loud enough for the crowd to hear, thank you so much." The words cut through the hysteria, and for a brief moment, the audience fell silent. They saw him not as an untouchable superstar, but as a man, fragile, vulnerable, yet still standing. And then, as if on cue, the stadium erupted again, louder than before. The band shifted. The lights softened. The gentle piano notes of Heal the World filled the air. Michael's voice was fragile now, but steady. He sang the opening lines with his eyes closed, as though drawing strength from somewhere deep within his soul. Heal the world, make it a better place. The audience quieted, then slowly began to sing with him. Tens of thousands of voices joined together, echoing across the night sky, creating a sound that felt almost holy. Fans waved their hands in unison, some holding candles or lighters that flickered like stars. Tears streamed down faces in the crowd. Strangers embraced, united in the moment. Michael, though visibly weak, stretched out his arms as if embracing them all. For those minutes, it was not a concert. It was a communion of souls. One fan later recalled, "It felt like he was giving us his last breath, and we were giving him ours. It wasn't just music, it was love made real." By the end of Heal the World, Michael could barely stand. His legs trembled, his chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. The doctor in the wings signaled frantically, urging the crew to pull him off stage. But Michael wasn't done. He raised the microphone one last time. His voice was hoarse, but resolute. "You are my family. I love you." The crowd screamed back in unison. "We love you, Michael." With a final burst of energy, he launched into Man in the Mirror. The band swelled, the lights flared, and Michael poured everything he had left into the performance. His voice soared, cracked, and soared again, as if carried by the crowd itself. When he reached the chorus, "If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change," the stadium erupted. Tens of thousands of people sang the words back to him, their voices blending into a single, unstoppable force. Michael lifted his arms, sweat dripping down his face, eyes closed, his entire being surrendered to the music. And then, with one last sustained note, he ended. The stage lights cut. The music stopped. The crowd erupted into the loudest ovation of the night, a thunderous sound that shook the stadium. Michael stood there, still, trembling, soaking in the love that poured from the audience like a tidal wave. He gave a final bow, whispered a soft thank you, and allowed himself to be guided off stage by his assistants. Backstage, he collapsed into their arms. His body was done, but his spirit had triumphed. When the curtain fell for the last time that night, Backstage descended into chaos. Michael's body was trembling violently, his shirt drenched, his skin pale. Crew members rushed to catch him as his legs gave way. Doctors pressed oxygen to his face, assistants shouted for ice packs and water, while dancers stood frozen, their eyes wide with fear. But Michael's first words as he was lowered onto a stretcher stunned everyone. Did they enjoy it? Not am I okay? Not what happened. His only concern was whether the fans had received the show they had come for. The doctor's voice was sharp as he checked Michael's pulse. He needs fluids, rest, and a hospital now. This man just pushed himself to the edge. Michael tried to sit up, shaking his head weakly. No hospital. Just rest. Please, don't tell them. Don't scare the fans. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Some were furious at his stubbornness, others awestruck by his dedication. One dancer whispered through tears. He gave them everything, even when he had nothing left. As fans spilled out of the stadium into the night, they buzzed with excitement, oblivious to the drama backstage. To them, it had been one of the most extraordinary concerts of their lives. I saw him drop to one knee, and I thought my heart would stop, one fan later recalled. But then he rose up again, and the entire stadium erupted. It was like watching a miracle. Another said, "It wasn't just a performance. It was proof that he loved us enough to give us everything, even if it broke him." For the fans, the cracks in his voice, the sweat pouring down his face, the tremble in his steps, none of it diminished the experience. If anything, it made it more powerful. The next morning, newspapers around the world carried the story. Michael collapses backstage during history tour. Exhaustion pushes King of Pop to the brink. Jackson defies doctors, finishes concert anyway. Some outlets criticized him for endangering his health. Others praised him as the ultimate showman. One critic wrote, "We expect perfection from Michael Jackson, but last night we saw something greater than perfection. We saw courage. We saw humanity. We saw a man who would rather fall than fail his fans." Another journalist concluded, "The King of Pop may have stumbled, but in rising again, he cemented his legend." In private, Michael rarely spoke about that night. He disliked showing weakness. But to close friends, he admitted, "I don't want them to see me sick or tired. They come for magic, and I want them to leave with hope. Even if I'm falling apart inside, I have to give them that." For Michael, the collapse was not a failure. It was a reminder that he was human, and yet, through sheer will, he had turned fragility into strength. Years later, the story became legend among fans. Those who were there spoke of it with reverence. In fan forums and documentaries, people described it as the night Michael proved not only that he was the greatest performer alive, but also that he was a man who lived for his audience. One fan wrote years later, "I've seen him perform at his peak, but nothing compared to that night. It wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, it was raw, it was human, and it was unforgettable." For many, that night symbolized Michael's life itself: relentless pressure, endless challenges, constant criticism, yet always rising, always giving, always loving. This is the untold story of the night Michael Jackson collapsed backstage but returned to finish the show. A night when his body broke, but his spirit refused to. A night when fans saw not just the King of Pop, but the man behind the crown. A night when music became more than entertainment. It became sacrifice, devotion, and love. And that is why, decades later, people still remember not just the songs, not just the dancers, but the man who gave everything he had for the people who believed in him. Dizzy subscribe for more untold Michael Jackson stories. Bell hit the notification bell to never miss one. Thumbs up sign like if this story inspired you. Speech balloon comment what Michael's resilience means to you.